Welcome to episode 165 of the Selling Your Screenplay podcast. I'm Ashley Scott Myers, screenwriter and blogger over at sellingyourscreenplay.com. Today I'm interviewing writer and director Chris von Hoffman. Chris recently wrote and directed a feature film called Drifter. We talk about that film and how he got to the point in his career where he was ready to write and direct a feature film. So stay tuned for that. If you find this episode valuable, please help me out by giving me a review in iTunes or leaving a comment on YouTube or retweeting the podcast on Twitter or liking it on Facebook. These social media shares really do help spread word about the podcast, so they're very much appreciated. Any websites or links that I mention in the podcast can be found on my blog in the show notes. I also publish a transcript with every episode in case you'd rather read the show or look at something later on. You can find all the podcast show notes at www.sellingyourscreenplay.com/podcast, and then just look for episode number 165. Quick few words about what I'm working on. So once again, the main thing I'm working on is post-production on my crime action thriller feature film, The Pinch. I get a lot of emails from people who seem to like these weekly updates about what I'm working on, so I try and do them as often as possible. But honestly, this week there is not a lot to report on. I'm still not quite to locked picture on The Pinch. My editor is taking a final pass at the picture just to see if there are any last bits of cleanup that he needs to do. Then I'll have one final look at the picture, and then hopefully we'll be to locked picture. So it might even take another week or even 2 weeks, but we are slowly making some progress. The main thing I did last week was I started to collect resumes from the various sound folks who I'll need help with. This is the guy who's going to score the movie, the composer who's going to score the movie. This is the sound effects person, Foley. Someone's got to go and put in all the sound effects, and then also the dialogue editor, and then also the person who mixes everything together. Basically, once those three people have done their pass, the dialogue editor, the composer, and the sound effects guy, then someone has to go in and mix all those sounds so that they're at the proper levels and they all sound good together. So those are sort of the four positions. The mixer guy will probably also do the dialogue editing, or he will do the sound effects. You can double up a little bit on that. So that's kind of what I'm looking for now is, as I said, put a bunch of ads up and put word out. And I've been collecting resumes as I've been talking about The Pinch every week on the podcast. People have been sending me resumes and samples and stuff. So now I'm just starting to go through there. I also put up ads on the Los Angeles section of Craigslist to try and find some of those people. There's a ton of, really talented people here in Los Angeles that, are always scrapping for work. So hopefully I can meet some of those folks and, put them to work and use their skill and their talents on this picture. Sound is definitely something I do not know a lot about. You can probably tell from listening to this podcast, sound is definitely not my forte. So I'll definitely need quite a bit of help on this. Anyways, as I said, might take a couple more weeks to get to lock picture, but slowly but surely I am moving ahead. At this point, I shot the film last July. Basically, in the month of July, we ended the last day of July. I think we literally ended shooting on July 31st. So I don't think a year in post-production on a low-budget film like this is unreasonable. You just get other things because it's super low budget. I don't have a lot of money. I mean, the more money you have, the more money you can throw at it. You can kind of speed up the process a little bit. But, in a lot of cases, like with these sound folks, as I said, there's a lot of talented people, but I'm not going to be able to pay them very much. As I said, this is a super low budget film. So, they may get other higher paying jobs, and that's totally fine. So, there may be some bumps in the road as we go down that. But the bottom line is we shot this last July, and I'm kind of thinking, as long as I finish post-production within a year, I don't think that is a terrible time frame. You always want things to be quicker, but, that's just kind of the process. So I would say at this point, that's my goal, is try and get done at least by June or July, but hopefully sooner. But, just keep slowly moving ahead. In any event, that's the update for this week. Let's get into the main segment. Today, I'm interviewing writer-director Chris von Hoffman. Here is the interview. Welcome, Chris, to the Selling Your Screenplay podcast. I really appreciate you coming on the show with me.
I appreciate you having me. Thank you very much.
So to start out, maybe you can tell us a little bit about your background. Where did you grow up, and how did you get interested in the entertainment business?
I grew up in North Jersey, like suburban New Jersey. Mm-hmm. So I was born and raised in New Jersey. I'd always wanted to be involved. I mean, movies and just Hollywood and the movie industry and filmmaking was just the only thing I was ever attracted to as far back as I remember having a memory since like birth. And that was the only thing that my attention was focused on, and I literally was not focused on anything else around me. That was the only thing. And so, like, when I was like 6 years old, 7 years old, or like is when I really started to gravitate to. My parents had gotten me like a high-8 video camera, and I would just film everything and film a lot of, unfinished short films, and I would put my friends in, and I would put myself in them, and none of them were edited because I didn't really understand editing at the time. I would just shoot a lot of stuff, but I just would constantly be filming all the time. And then, like, eventually when I got into high school, I was still always into filmmaking, but I actually made a segue into acting, and I started to pursue pursue theater in high school and did all the plays and musicals, and then when I got out of high school, I went to a acting conservatory in New York City for about 6 or 7 months, and that was a very intense experience pursuing acting, doing that. And then after that, I just studied, did a lot of acting classes around like Greenwich Village or West Village in New York, and did a lot of black box plays, and just did a lot of theater, like a lot of small theater. And most of the plays were pretty unsuccessful, but a couple were quasi successful. And but then eventually I just kind of reached a wall as an actor, and I wasn't really having much success doing it, and it wasn't really gratifying, satisfying to me at all anymore. So I just decided to pursue directing, totally switch careers, and I made a short film in New Jersey, and I took it out and moved out to Los Angeles a week after it was finished, and basically started a whole new career pursuit of being a director. So that was a completely massive change for me at the time.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of these short films that you were doing. Just maybe to start, I'd like to just kind of hear, do you feel like these short films ultimately led into helping you get this feature film Drifter completed?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah, big time. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people are a lot of young filmmakers that, want to make movies, they're so, they look at short films like they're beneath them, and they immediately jump into making a feature film, and then their feature film is just garbage, and it looks like a student film, and it looks like they made it in their backyard, and it's incredibly rough around the edges. And I feel like if you're going to spend all that time making a feature film, because it's such a long endeavor, you got to be prepared for it as well as you can. I mean, it's like doing boot camp before you go to Vietnam or something, and so I wanted to make as many short films as possible to prepare myself, but also like understand the nuts and bolts of filmmaking, because I had been pursuing acting for so long that I didn't really understand the technicalities of how movies are made, and I didn't want to come off like a schmuck, and I wanted to like really understand movies and what everyone does, and so I just made as many short films as possible for like 6 straight years, pretty consistently, and of all different lengths, so all different genres, and just like understanding what it is I have to offer to movies, and what it is I'm contributing. And then by the time I started to prep, Drifter, it didn't even feel like a feature film. It just felt like a long short film, so I knew that I was like ready to make the transition to it. It just felt like, just another movie. It didn't feel like this big, frightening endeavor, because I've been making so many shorts prior.
Yeah, and I'm curious, I wonder if you could just give us some like sort of specific nuts and bolts. Were you, once you finished these short films, were you submitting them to film festivals? Were you sending them out to agents? Or were you just, trying to get the nuts and bolts down and just moving on to the next short film? Was there any marketing of these short films once you were done?
I mean, I definitely I tried everything. I tried as pretty much every angle I could to get them exposed. Every short film I made, I was submitted to as many film festivals as I could afford, and just, constantly always submitting them to more and more festivals. But none of my short films like really had much success. Even when they would get better technically, they still just never really had that much success. They didn't really the festival. I mean, film festivals did accept them, but they were like very small film festivals. And I loved them for doing that. But like none of the bigger film festivals really took them in, and they didn't really embrace them very much, and they just didn't really do that much for me in the long run. But like what they did do, which still was a great thing, was they really just trained me very much for filmmaking in general, and really kind of disciplined me that don't get too self-satisfied or something. And it really humbled me, the experience of making short films, because they really didn't have much success at all. But they were like I was like creating a portfolio though, which I looked at back at then like, okay, well that's like a film school. That was like my film school or something, making all these short films. So I definitely benefited from it in the long run.
Yeah. So let's dig into Drifter. To start out, maybe you can give us a quick log line or pitch. What is this film all about?
Well, essentially the film is about these two outlaw brothers in this California desert. And they're on their way on this sort of fool's errand mission to hunt down this guy who allegedly murdered their father. And on this mission, they essentially take a temporary detour into this strange town to find medical assistance after the younger brother is beaten pretty badly by these bandits which try to hijack their vehicle. And once they enter this town, they do find medical assistance, but they also find this small family that's inhabited the town of these cannibal savages that are just pure evil, and they take the two brothers captive, and what ensues is this very strange, blood-soaked odyssey, descent into hell as the two brothers try to escape captivity.
Mm-hmm. And where did this idea first come from?
I thought of the idea when I was like 16 years old. I had the title, and I had the opening scene, and I had the overall structure of the movie. And at that time, it was still about two brothers that get stuck in a town, but the town was like overrun by a supernatural force, sort of like a literal ghost town, as opposed to being run by cannibal savages. And then 10 years later, when I ended up making, deciding this would be the perfect film to make it my first film for a micro budget, I just made it them being cannibals instead of ghosts, because it was just like, just much better for budget's sake.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it started like, but like the initial idea was like over a decade ago or so, and just sort of pulled it out from the woodwork, just like, oh, this idea will be, I forgot about this idea. This idea will be good for my first movie.
Yeah. And did you already know, like, the location, as you start to write this? Did you have an idea you could shoot it here, you could shoot it in this specific location very cheaply? What elements did you kind of have in place before you started writing?
Yeah, the biggest element that we definitely wrote the script around was the town that we shot like 5 days of the shooting schedule in, which is like a big, because the entire second act takes place in the town. And so I definitely knew where I wanted to shoot the town, and we had scouted that location like months before, like a year before we even started filming, actually. And it really that just kind of propelled the writing process. Okay, well, we have access to this town. Let's write a movie that takes place in the town. Let's write around this town. So that was like the first initial thing. And we had shot a promo teaser like a few months before we started prepping the movie to like raise some money, and we had shot the promo teaser in the town so people saw kind of what I was going for. And so yeah, it all started with the town.
Yeah. So let's talk about your writing process a little bit. I always like to just get a feel for writers. How much time do you spend? And it sounds like this is something that was kind of percolating for many, many years. But in general, how much time do you spend outlining versus how much time do you spend actually opening up Final Draft and writing, script pages?
Well, this particular movie, I worked with a writing partner who's also the lead actor in the movie, who played the younger brother. So him and I worked on the script together, and how that worked, because I write most of my stuff by myself, so it was an interesting process working with him. And he had essentially, I was editing a short film at the time, and I was also working a day job, so I didn't really have much. This was like fall of 2014, a few months before we started prepping the movie. So at that time he was writing his own version of the draft, and he had wrote like sort of like a 40-page kind of like outline script. And then once I finally had free time open up and I was ready to go full force on the script, I sort of like, took it over and kind of like rewrote it to make it my own, to make it fit really what I wanted to make. And I removed, as much dialogue as possible and kind of heighten up the intensity of it and make it more thrilling and exciting and all that. And, as far as like the amount of time, I feel like, I don't know. I mean, probably. I guess it was kind of like on and off for a few months. But I guess if you tallied them up, it really wasn't that long of a time. Unfortunately, with this movie, I was really just so focused on just making a feature film that I just wanted to get the script to a certain place and then just kind of take it from there. So not, I mean, probably like on and off, like consistently for like 2 or 3 months or so writing the script.
Mm-hmm. And what is your development process on something like this? It sounds like early on you knew that you were going to try and shoot it yourself. But did you get feedback? Do you send it to actors? Do you have some friends that are writers, directors? Do you get feedback? And how do you interpret that feedback when you start to get it?
Yeah, I was definitely getting that in the writing process, and I was sending it out to people. And definitely rewrites were made based off that feedback. But I was also thinking about, unfortunately, I also had to like really hardcore think about like budget as well, because they were suggesting a lot of things that I just knew, because a lot of this budget was like it was a lot of personal sacrifice to make this movie. So I just knew that a lot of their suggestions were good suggestions, but I just knew that it wasn't going to be realistic to afford that. So I had to be very, very insanely careful with what rewrites were made to the script, because I need to keep it as like nuts and bolts and simple as I possibly could.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, getting the feedback was a very, it was definitely like, different feedback from different people, and it was just sort of taking what makes sense, what you can realistically afford, because when they're giving you feedback, they're not thinking about what you can afford, but I am, and so like I got to be very precise and methodical about like what's appropriate to adjust in the script. So that was kind of a frustrating process, but
Sure.
was what it was.
I'm curious. I get a lot of people emailing me, and they have questions that go something along the lines of, how do you know how much something is going to cost? And I think that's one of the great things about doing short films, is you start to kind of realize what scenes are expensive. Do you have some sort of general tips? Are there any counterintuitive things that seem like they should be cheap to shoot but are actually expensive, and then vice versa? Some things that maybe seem like they might be expensive but are actually very easy and cheap to shoot. Maybe you could even, if you don't have anything off the top of your head, maybe you could even think about some of the suggestions people gave you and give some of those examples and tell us why you thought they were going to be too expensive.
People like, I think, okay, well, like a lot of people, because like the third act of the movie doesn't really go in a way that typical survival movie sort of storyline would go. Like, the third act doesn't go the typical route where, okay, we're going to fight back, we're going to be heroic, and we're going to make this big character arc, and we're going to, like, grab shotguns, and we're going to fight these cannibals and all that. And, like, first of all, creatively, wasn't really interested in doing that, because I've just seen that kind of third act in so many movies, and it really kind of just bores me, and I thought I would much rather go another route and make it a lot more unconventional and kind of switch perspectives on the cannibals, and just much more of like a nightmarish climax. But also, I just knew that I wasn't going to be able to afford a third act like that, and that's probably where I hit the wall, because the third act, is like just kind of going from set piece to set piece inside the house, that like the younger brother is like kind of held captive in, and if it was a bigger budget, maybe I would have been more inclined perhaps to make it much more of a more of a straightforward, big, typical action-packed third act. But there was just so much in the movie already that I just sort of hit a wall at that point. I just knew that like that wasn't gonna work out, to do that for this particular movie.
Yeah. And how do you approach screenplay structure? You're throwing around a lot of terms: first act, middle act, third act. How do you approach screenplay structure? Are you a Blake Snyder fan, Sid Field fan? What do you think about screenplay structure in general?
Yeah, I think I'm always trying to make something like I do love straightforward linear storytelling, and I do believe in 3-act structure. And I am trying to. As like unconventional and kind of twisty as Drifter, is. I still feel like there is a 3-act structure. I feel like a skeletal 3-act structure, but there is still like a 3-act structure to it. So I'm trying to. I'm not really interested in like. I'm really not interested in like avant-garde filmmaking. Like I really do want to make. I really do believe in the nuts and bolts, 3-act structure. I like to make it as simplistic as possible. That just gives me enough room. That just gives me plenty of room to just, kind of go nuts with the aesthetic. So yeah, I really believe in, straightforward structures.
Yeah. Now, as far as genre goes, was there a particular reason that you wanted to do a film? I mean, it's kind of like a post-apocalyptic Mad Max sort of a genre, correct?
Yeah.
And so was there a particular reason you wanted to sort of explore that? Was it just a creative decision? Was it a business decision? Had you talked to some distributors that said, hey, these movies are selling in the marketplace? What was sort of your motivation for this particular genre?
I mean, definitely like a mix of all that. I mean, I think, post-apocalyptic movies, the reason why there's just so many of them, there's a lot of terrible low-budget post-apocalyptic movies, but there are a lot of them, and it is, a market in and of itself, and I knew that was a good backdrop to use because it's already got this niche market and have a concept that's sort of familiar. I mean, everyone, cannibals in the desert and guns going off, and like people, that all that stuff, is, I think can be eye-catching to horror websites and all that. So it sort of has like a built-in fan base of just, that sort of DNA. But also, I just went. I kind of went through a phase because I made a couple other. I was trying to get a feature film made back in 2013, but also took place in the desert and also had a similar tone to it, and that was very unsuccessful trying to get money for that. So I just sort of took the inspiration from that movie, took like the sort of backdrop from that movie, cranked it up a little bit, and made it a little bit more futuristic, and put it in this movie. So like I just wanted to sort of kind of purge myself with the desert backdrop, because I've always been fascinated by the desert because there's just something very. It's also very cheap to shoot in the desert as well.
Yeah.
So it was just a mix of business and creative. It was a mix of a lot of things.
Yeah, and I'm curious. Even specifically, like you said, there's this sort of sub niche of these post-apocalyptic cannibal movies. How do you even know about that? Are these films that you watch and you enjoy personally? Have you worked for distributors or talked to distributors? Precisely kind of how did you zone in on that and know that this was a sub niche that might be popular?
I mean, I didn't really. I don't know. I mean, we definitely weren't talking to any distributors like when I started prepping the movie. Like there wasn't really that much of a strategy. I was just so desperate to make a film that I just had to make a film right away. So we didn't start getting sales agents and distributors coming on board till well after the fact, while we were filming and after we stopped, when we were in post production. But I just watch an enormous amount of movies, and I love genre movies, and I'm always fascinated by desert post-apocalyptic movies, and I just see them all over the place. So it's like, okay, well, I see all these movies getting made, and they all seem to get released, but they're not very good. So let me just do my own and make it sort of like a commentary on what's wrong with a lot of these kind of red boxy, straight to video, desert, post-apocalyptic movies. Let me do like my version of that, make it like it's sort of like a commentary on those movies, sort of like deconstructing those movies in the way that I see it. But also, there was a film called The Proposition that came out in 2005, which was a similar tone, similar feel, and that movie was always like a major influence for Drifter all the way through. And I just loved how it was very ambiguous with where it took place or like what the setting was, and it was like just a really visceral experience watching that film, and I knew I wanted to sort of make that bleed over into Drifter.
Yeah. So let's talk about.
Go ahead.
So let's talk about the financing of this film. Once you were done the project or were done writing the script, what were your steps to actually raising money to bring this to production?
Well, I guess it was sort of like a very, very, very sloppy, unconventional way, because I didn't really have much of a producer on this movie, and I'm not very savvy with business things about raising money, so it was very sort of like a frustrator. But essentially, we tried like an Indiegogo campaign. We like put together a whole pitch package for it, and like a video pitch and all that. Shot this like tonal teaser for it as well, and I thought we had a pretty good presentation for it, and but just nobody it was completely unsuccessful, and we couldn't even raise like $1,000, and we were trying to get 20,000 at the time, and I mean, nobody wanted to. They all felt the project was cool, but nobody wanted to. Indiegogo was just not the right place for a movie like this. I mean, they're not going to invest money, and we were just trying to make a whacked out little micro budget cannibal thriller. That's all, and I think you need more of a hook than that, I guess, to get money on Indiegogo. But so that was really unsuccessful, like ridiculously unsuccessful, almost embarrassing. But, so then after that, we had a couple other investors. They were going to come on board, and then they dropped out at last minute. But it was really kind of like a win-win situation. It was just scraping up, like I said, it was definitely personal sacrifice. Then we had, a few $1,000s from this guy, and this person came on board to help out, and this person. But it was a very like unconventional, very like just sloppy process of just scraping by, just getting. The moment I got enough money just to move forward, I did, because once we started to move forward and people saw that we were actually making this movie, regardless of the failed Indiegogo campaign, things started to snowball and people started to want to come on board and invest. But it was still like a major struggle all the way through financially.
And these people that you're getting to invest, they're friends and family. Who are these people specifically?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty much the major side investor was a friend of mine who put in like a good chunk of the budget. And he really, I had known him for a couple of years at that time, and he's an incredibly selfless, just genuine, amazing human being, and he just would help. He was always helping us out, not just like initially in the beginning to get us with like some startup funds, but he was also like just helping us a lot when the bank broke, when we were like in the middle of production and we needed one night our camera fried and we had to get a backup camera sent to us, and he had paid for it right there, and he just was always really helping us out whenever we needed it, and he was just an incredible asset to the production.
Yeah. So how can people see Drifter? Do you know what the release schedule is going to be?
Yeah, well, it's doing a free sneak preview screening at UCLA on February 23rd, 7:30. It's a Thursday night, and then February 24th, the next night, it begins. It's a LA theatrical run, Arena Cinema on Hollywood Boulevard for about 1 week, and then
Nice.
On February 28th is when it goes to iTunes and Video on Demand and Amazon and all that. And I think it's going to come out on DVD and Blu-ray sometime in June in the U.S.
Okay.
But it's in Australia right now on DVD, and then in March it goes to Germany, and then late March it goes to the UK, and then later in the summer it goes to the Middle East.
Mm-hmm. And I'm curious, at what point did you find a distributor, and how did you get the distributor on board? When the moment I finished filming the movie, we had a domestic sales agent, this guy Daniel, who really believed in the film from day one, and really believed in me, and he was just an incredible human being, and was extremely supportive of the project and of me, so he really was like pushing the film, and just while we were filming, he was just talking about it to as many distributors and networking as much as possible. And then once I finished the film, I cut a trailer for the American film market so that he can show it. Him and the international sales agent, this guy Jack, they both could show it to. They showed the trailer to all the distributors and all these different buyers, and while editing the movie, and so he was getting a lot of people interested just off of the trailer, and then. Like within a month after the movie, we found out we were rejected from a few distributors, but then finally, XL Media came on board and bought the North American rights, and then after that, a bunch of international distributors started to pick the film up. So it's gotten like worldwide distribution, which has been really really cool. It's been interesting. Yeah, that's great. So what's the best way for people to keep up with what you're doing? If you're on Twitter, Facebook, blog, anything you're comfortable sharing, you can just give us that now, and I'll put that all in the show notes so people can click over and check it out.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I just started Twitter, so there's really nothing on there. I just started to start like promoting screenings of the movie and all that.
And what is your Twitter?
But the main outlets I use it. I'm trying to remember because I literally just. I think it's CV Hoffman with 2 N's. I mean, if you just look up my name, Twitter, it should come up right away.
Perfect.
But like the main outlets I use are Facebook and Instagram. And if you just look at my name, it'll come up right away on both outlets. It's pretty specific name, so it'll come up right away.
Perfect. So I'll gather that stuff. I'll put it in the show notes. People can click over to that. Well, Chris, congratulations with this film. I really appreciate you coming on and talking with me today.
Absolutely.
Thank you. We'll talk to you later.
Well, thank you so much, man. Take care.
Bye. A quick plug for the SYS Screenwriting Analysis Service. It's a really economical way to get a high-quality professional evaluation on your screenplay. When you buy our 3-pack, you get evaluations at just $67 per script for feature films and just $55 for teleplays. All the readers have professional experience reading for studios, production companies, contests, and agencies. You can read a short bio on each reader on our website, and you can pick the one who you think is the best fit for your script. Turnaround time is usually just a few days, but rarely more than a week. The readers will evaluate your script on 6 key factors: concept, character, structure, marketability, tone, and overall craft, which includes formatting, spelling, and grammar. Every script will get a grade of pass, consider, or recommend, which should help you roughly understand where your script might rank if you were to submit it to a production company or agency. We can provide an analysis on features or television scripts. We also do proofreading without any analysis. We will also look at a treatment or outline and give you the same analysis on it. So if you're looking to vet some of your project ideas, this is a great way to do it. We will also write a logline and synopsis for you. You can add this logline synopsis service to an analysis, or you can simply purchase the logline and synopsis service as a standalone product. As a bonus, if your script gets a recommender from a reader, you get a free email or fax blast, a free email and fax blast to my list of industry contacts. This is the exact same blast service I use myself to promote my own scripts, and it's the same service I sell on the website. It's a great way to get your script into the hands of producers who are looking for material. So if you want a professional evaluation of your screenplay at a very reasonable price, check out www.sellingyourscreenplay.com/consultants. In the next episode of the podcast, I'm going to be interviewing producer Tony Bill. He's had a long, successful career, which includes winning a Best Picture Academy Award for The Sting. We talk about his whole career, which includes his current projects and how he finds screenplays to option and produce. It's a great insight into the thought process of a successful producer. And he's exactly the type of producer that, as screenwriters, we should be networking with and meeting and trying to understand what he's looking for so that we could potentially provide that script to him. So keep an eye out for that episode next week. Anyway, that's the show. Thank you for listening.